And it looks like we are live, but I don't have my mic plugged in, so we're gonna do that real quick. But
Oh
look,
no.
we're finally live here. Lots of technical issues, work issues, but we're live. We're live. All right, mic is plugged in. Let's get this connected here. And the mic check. All right, we are good. All right,
We're good.
let's try this again. Ryan, can you hear me?
Rewind.
Ryan, you hear me better now?
I hear you good. You're good.
All right, let's try this again. We are live, finally. Sorry for the little delay here, but we're live. Amazing episode tonight, episode 5 of Survivor, season 41. It was absolutely phenomenal all the way around. I really like this episode personally. I think it was a great addition to last week, which is another great episode. Again, I missed the recap last week, so I'm here back tonight. A little bit hectic going in. Sorry about that. But once again, I am your host, Dylan Bird, alongside my co-host, Ryan Winthrop. What's up, Ryan? We're finally here.
I was going to say the only thing more back and forth than the Knicks Celtics game was Shannon versus Rickard before Tribal Council. So, to your point, another great episode. I think that we can all agree that besides episode 3, where it got a little bit over advantage heavy, this has been a really strong season so far. 5 episodes in, I think we can all also agree the characters and the players are really fun to watch. I can't wait to dissect what happened in this episode because a lot went down.
Yeah, so look, a lot went down. There's so much to talk about tonight because I think tonight did a really good job of kind of blending in those really big strategical moments also with a ton of strategy, which is what we've been waiting for. So I'm really happy with the way that Survivor's kind of pivoted from episode 3, where it was all advantages, and now it's really starting to feel like Survivor is, back in swing, really starting to feel like normal Survivor, and I'm so happy about that. But first, before we get into everything, just want to remind everyone to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Follow us on Twitter at Soul Survivor Pod, follow us on Instagram at Soul Survivor Pod, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and any other platform. It's pretty much on all platforms. Anchor, go check that out. So, subscribe everywhere. And look, excited to get going tonight to talk about everything. So much to talk about. And obviously we were a little bit delayed tonight. Sorry about that. Look, some things I do happen to work in sports, and big basketball games were on tonight. The first big night of the NBA. So was following my Knicks until the end of that game. Again, got to pay close attention to things for work and such. And look, got to watch Survivor while I watched the NBA, all great times. But before I keep going out on a tangent, let's get right to it, into the vote out first, because that's what we've been doing for each podcast. Jeannie voted out tonight, and I think that once Ua lost the immunity challenge, I texted you. I was like, Jeannie's going home. Like, that's what everyone would have thought. But the editing did a phenomenal job of making us think that it may not be happening. So hats off to them for that.
Yeah, we were saying the same thing back and forth that, the immunity challenge, when Ua lost and Shannon and Liana had to go to the Summit Island together, we were at, I'm pretty sure it was 8:25. So we were already done with the challenge at only a quarter into the hour. So not that my math is completely wrong, not a quarter into the hour. Basically 8:25 and we're already done with the challenge. So it really seemed inevitable that Jeannie was going to go home tonight. And like we were saying, I have to give the editors credit because I knew Jeannie was probably gone. I texted you and I said, this feels like a very big misdirect to me. It's going to be Jeannie. The editors did everything in their power to make us think, oh, there's a chance that Rickard might go home tonight and Shan may flip on him. Heck, I was even seeing some people on Twitter. Granted, people may just tweet things off the top of their head without even thinking about it, but I even saw someone go, could Shan be going home? Like, Shan got a lot of backstory tonight with her mother, and could this be Shan's episode to go? Like, people were really starting to overthink this because of all the tricks the editors pulled, so I have to give them a lot of credit here. That they took an episode where the result that was obvious, and it could have been a really boring episode, and they made it very exciting.
And here's the thing is that, you think about it, this tribe was whittled down to 3 already. We have to think that, maybe part of the reasoning for Survivor letting these tribes get so low is that, these 3 players got so much screen time tonight. And not only did we get strategical stuff, we got so much backstory, and we really got to see inside the dynamics of this tribe. kind of the triangle of relationships and triangle of strategy that was going on here. Obviously, Shan goes off to the island that doesn't have a name. She goes off of the summit, and then you got Genie and Rickard talk. And Rickard's like, well, I'm kind of just playing Genie here to make it seem like she thinks she has a chance. And then I'm sitting here worried, like, well, this is going to somehow get back to Shan, which of course it did. So, Rickard maybe playing a little bit too hard here, but at the same time, he had to talk to Genie. So this is what happens when there's only 3 people left. Shan comes back. Shan immediately talks to Genie. Genie and Shan look like they may have something. Shan and Rickard talk, and they get into a fight about the giving, Rickard giving Shan the extra vote back. I think Rickard made the right move not to give her the extra vote back. Just something that, he wasn't going to be tricked like JD was, obviously. And that was so funny how that happens where, Shan basically tried to pull the same thing twice, 2 episodes in a row, except for clearly she wasn't going to vote out Rickard. But, it seemed like that to Rickard. So good job by him on holding his ground. But I think that tonight really set up the not only villain power couple edit type thing that Rickard and Shan are playing, but also like it's clear that they're going to go at each other probably sooner rather than later, and I think that it's going to be phenomenal TV.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of foreshadowing tonight, and we're going to get into it when we talk about both the summit and then also when we go back to Uwa and we talk more about Shan and Rickard's conversation, because I really want to dive into that. That was, I love 2 strategic players who know the game in a chess match against each other. And not only are they great players, they're allies, and they're trying to outmaneuver each other. And it was very fun to watch. Like, I can't wait to go more into it. But yeah, no, I think that the story of this episode is that Shan has survived now, 4 tribal councils with this Uwa tribe, and her name has not been written down once. Rickard got a throwaway vote in the first tribal council when Genie wrote down his name when Sarah went home, and now he got another vote from Genie before she left. And then obviously, Brad's gone, JD's gone, Sarah's gone. Shan has not received a single vote yet. So that just speaks to how powerful Shan's social game is. Everybody thinks they're in good with her. And I also want to bring up, Dylan, before we go back through the episode, like Genie even says in her exit words, I didn't use my shot in the dark. Maybe I should have, but I didn't really want to use it. I mean, I guess Shan is just making people feel so comfortable that they're going to be fine and they're not even going to play their shot in the dark. Now, granted, I think we've learned from the comments and from what we've seen online, you only get 1 shot in the dark. So maybe Genie's thinking, oh, if I can just wait until the merge, I might need it more later. But I got to think, if you are in a 3-person tribe, it could easily be you. Anything can happen, and it could easily fall on your head, even if you think you're safe. And Genie already thinks she's towards the bottom because she knows Shan and Rickard are tight. Even if she thinks that Shan's going to maybe vote with her to get rid of Rickard, I got to think that you're playing your shot in the dark if you're either... I mean, Genie should have played her shot in the dark. Rickard, I guess you could make an argument that he didn't need to because he knew he was fine deep down, but I was actually surprised she didn't play it.
So here's the thing, is I'm thinking about it, and like, all right, if you're Genie and you sacrifice your vote for the shot in the dark, you have to be 100% sure, basically, that Shan is not with you. Because obviously you have to sacrifice your vote, and then it's a 1-1 tie, and then all of a sudden the plan backfires, and like you look like such an idiot if you play the shot in the dark, but you really had Shan on your side. So I think that, obviously a lot of credit goes to Shan that, she did a good job of making Genie think that she didn't need to play her shot in the dark. And she even said something about it during the tribal council. That's when it hit me like Genie's going to go home. Because she said, I don't know if you caught this, Shan said at the tribal council, she's like, I think that the votes are really important. There's no need for anyone to play their shot in the dark tonight. And as soon as she said that, I was like, Genie's going home. Because the other 2 were definitely not playing their shot in the dark. So that's when I knew it was going to happen. Again, obviously great job by Shan, to kind of, make Genie think that she had a fighting chance tonight. And great job to the editors to making the viewers seem like it was wide open as well. But yeah, again, Genie, she had to be 100% sure basically that Shan was going against her, because you can't sacrifice your vote in a 3-person scenario if you actually think that you're going to be successful in voting someone else out with 2.
Yeah, well, it was great storytelling because Shan said early in the episode when they find the advantage together, Shan says the most powerful thing you have in this game is to vote. And I completely agree. Like, the power to vote is so powerful in Survivor because that not only helps you make moves, it shows your allies who you're with. Like they say all the time, if you're Luvu and you're winning immunities, oh, like you might think you're safe forever, but like you don't really know if those bonds that you're making are solid until you go down to tribal and you put pen to parchment and you write down someone's name. So that's when you know you're good and you have a strong alliance. So when Shan says at the start of the episode, the most powerful thing is your vote, and then she ends the episode saying, I don't think anyone should risk their vote because voting is important. It was nice storytelling to see it come full circle. And I guess to what you're saying, that maybe was just her trying to tell Jeannie that, just stick to the plan. No jokes, but like vote the way I'm telling you to vote. We're going to get rid of her card. She's like, okay, well, I'm fine. And she's not fine. So yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah, and I want to, again, just dive into the whole episode in a lot more detail right now. Once again, if you're watching this live, be sure to throw anything in the comments. We will get to your questions all at some point. If you're watching this late and you're not watching it live, then be sure to throw any questions or comments you have into the comment section, into the replies. Love seeing all the comments come in each week. Obviously we are doing this for the fans, so love to see the fan interactions. But let's get right to it right now. Let's break down the episode in a sequential way now that we discussed the vote a little bit. So first, episode opens up with Ua, and Jeannie is basically right there finding that advantage that was re-hidden, the Beware advantage that Brad got voted out with, put back into the game. It's the 3-part idol. And wow, we have a lot to talk about there. First of all, there was some crazy strategy going on at the beginning, some master plans into place once Jeannie found that idol between Shannon and Rickard, and kind of, playing Jeannie out of this. And again, honestly, if you thought about it like this, maybe it was like, all right, they really kept Jeannie out, when talking about the advantage. So maybe, that's how the vote was going to go. But again, crazy way to start the episode for sure. What was your thoughts on Rickard and Shannon, how they handled that, and Jeannie as well?
Well, sorry, my lips are getting chapped. First of all, I was thinking to myself that, by the way, I sometimes watch these episodes with my dad, so I think that's fun because I not only get someone who's kind of like a super fan's perspective, and myself, I get his more casual perspective. Like he just watches the episodes week to week to week. He doesn't watch these podcasts. He does not divulge into all the strategy. He just watches and that's it. So, he's over here losing his mind like these young kids. All they do is just tell people about their advantages. They run right to people. Like the old players like Boss and Rob would be like losing their minds right now. But I have to kind of say that, Stephen Fishback always says that that it's not always bad to share information because information brings you closer and it builds trust between allies. And I get that. And I think that he's always said you have to do that to a certain extent. You can't just give out all your cards. And I think tonight we saw, not only with Jeannie, but with Xander, a lot of people are very quick to give up a lot of information, which I think maybe this is just the new era of Survivor. People are just very willing to give information to get people on their side. But yeah, I mean, I can't believe Jeannie. Right. I mean, she left camp saying, I'm going to look for something and I'll tell you if I find it. Like she was already planning to tell them to have the three of them work as a 3-person group, which she thinks they're safe and they're all good because, we want to work together to, go into the merge strong UA 3. But like, if Shannon and Rickard are already very close and they're already very sneaky, I mean, you just giving them that information is going to set up what happens next, where they just go behind your back and go do it anyway. But I will say, Dylan, in terms of what do I think about the move, is that I think that we've already seen why Shannon and Rickard are great players because they've already evolved this to the next step where they've now figured it out where, okay, we know now what this is. We know this is a 3-person advantage because Jeannie told us that Brad found it. This is what it is. And it has to get activated by certain phrases. So we found it, let's put it back, but we won't open it for sure until we know that Luvu has found it. Once Luvu confirms they have it, we can just say the phrase because Brad already said our phrase for us, and then we can go back and not have to risk our votes. They're already starting to game how to move past it.
Yeah, and I mean, in hindsight, Jeannie obviously should have just kept this to herself, and she could have activated the idol, and she could have obviously flipped. I think that's a very underrated thing that I honestly didn't even realize until now when re-talking about it. Is like, wait, Jeannie could have activated the idol tonight. They would have known she would have had the idol, but they couldn't have done anything about it, and she could have obviously flipped the entire game on her head. So that, that's excuse me, that's the downside you get of, telling information like this. It could be, the reason why you go home. Now, on Shannon Rickard's standpoint, I thought it was smart to, kind of plan that and let Jeannie know that, they were that them saying it was not going to mean that they actually opened it, even though they actually did. It was really just next level stuff. Jeannie didn't really suspect anything. She was like, wow, what a great plan. Like, we're master planners. I think it's so underrated how they really, in just a 3-person tribe, each of them made themselves feel like they were so tight and so close with Jeannie. You get what I mean? So it was like, Jeannie was in with them 3 as if it was a 3-person alliance, but at the same time, there was only 3 people left. So how could there be a 3-person alliance when there's 3 people left? Meanwhile, Jeannie is telling them as if they're a 3-person team. It just speaks to their social game so much.
Yeah, I feel like, well, first of all, going back to what you said earlier, because you were kind of saying, oh, we saw some villainous sides of Shannon Rickard. Like Rickard had like I don't want to say the line of the night, but he gave that quotable confession where he's like, Jeannie's like that spare tire that when we're done, we're going to leave her on the side of the road, which is ruthless because I do love me some Jeannie. So that was ruthless. But yeah, no, I felt bad because Rickard and Shan are clearly more experienced players than Jeannie is. And basically they're like, okay, we can pretend we haven't opened it yet. And we can still have her think that we're all working together on this strategy to get this advantage, but only have to open it once we know Luvu has it. So a lot of moving parts here already. And I guess I should have seen this coming that maybe Uwa was going to go back to tribal council because they set up a lot of things here. I just thought for some reason they weren't going to lose 3 times in a row. So I will admit I was wrong. I was on the record on the podcast last week saying I don't think Uwa will lose for a 3rd time in a row. Clearly I was wrong, but I think this just proved that we should have maybe seen them going to tribal coming. Before we hop tribes, the other key thing that set up a later part of the episode, Dylan, was that Rickard says, well, now that Shan physically opened it, she's now lost her votes until we know Luvu has it because Xander already has it. So it makes sense for me to hold on to Shan's vote. Now, they wouldn't have included that if it was meant nothing was going to happen, but this set up exactly what happens later in the episode because Rickard is holding on to Shan's extra votes.
Yeah, this was definitely a big move by Shan again gives away her extra vote to Rickard, and in return Shan gets to say the phrase. So that was definitely something that was interesting, but at the same time I kind of find it amazing how both, and again we see later in the episode that Shan doesn't really trust Rickard that much because she says to Liana, just know that Shan says to Liana, just know that I don't trust Rickard if I'm not here tomorrow. And I think that was
interesting. Yeah, that was interesting.
That was a very big thing. So it kind of just shows that like they're like trusting each other, but they don't trust each other at the same time. So I thought that was very interesting. Now let's go to Luvu here. Obviously, we didn't get a ton of Luvu in this episode. Pretty much, the only thing we do.
Dylan, what else is new? What else is new at this point?
I mean, a tribe that is going to continue to win. You're not going to be able to see a lot of them because they're strictly not going to be voting. So I am looking forward to whether, this is a merge or this isn't a merge that we see next week. Obviously in the coming attractions, it says there, it's a merge, but there's some kind of twist that goes with it. But look, I'm looking forward to seeing more of them. Not much else that was going on here. They were thinking about throwing the challenge, but then, Nasir was not on board and, he kind of seemed to be closer to them than it was kind of letting off. So they decided not to throw the challenge. But the best part of Luvu that we saw tonight was the amazing editing throwback. That was just absolutely incredible. And that was Nasir finding the idol and saying, I'm as confused as a goat on AstroTurf. Amazing stuff from Nasir.
Well, yeah, this was a huge Nasir episode. So if you're a Nasir fan, whether you like him as a provider or whether you just think he's a fun character on the show, we were very happy to get a lot more Nasir content. But this was very interesting because, like you're saying, once again, Danny and Deshawn are talking about wanting to throw the challenge, and Nasir walks up on them and they're just chatting, and Nasir, as the competitor that he is, he's like, yeah, I'm not on board with this. It's never good to throw a challenge. I felt bad though. I felt bad because he was like, I'm really close with the guys and the tribe is including me in conversations, which we know is not completely true because he's been outed a couple of times, especially when he told Sydney something in confidence at night and she ran back and told the whole tribe the next morning. So I feel bad because I feel like he is still on the outs. And listen, I mean, we can always do like shoulda, woulda, coulda, but I feel like we might hear in post-game interviews, Dylan, that had Luvu gone to a first tribal council or two, Nasir maybe would have gone home. It's kind of like how we I'm not going to give any spoilers because we did get a comment once that somebody said just try not to spoil old seasons if you can help it. So we'll try not to, even though sometimes it's inevitable. We can't always help making references. But there was a time where in the last few seasons, the winner of the season, we've actually learned that there was a chance that if their tribe had gone to the first tribal council, had something that happened, then they maybe would have been out first. So I think that's Nasir. Hopefully he's long for the game. And I think we're lucky that we've gotten more content from him. The only other thing that we get from Luvu before the tribal council, not tribal, before the challenge, because at the challenge, Dylan, is where we learn he found the idol in a flashback. The last thing was what's it called? The last thing was that they decided, it was very quick. I actually missed it. I actually rewound for a little bit. They said really quickly, okay, if everyone's not on board, we're not throwing it. So I kind of was right last week, Dylan. I said they're not going to do a whole thing about throwing the challenge and then just to throw it the next week and get Erica out. So clearly they said as a group, they're not going to do it. And that's why Luvu just dominated once again.
Yeah, look, I love Nasir. He's obviously been one of the best characters of this season. And honestly, we'll see. Again, I'm curious to see how his strategic game goes because we haven't really seen him do anything strategically yet. But look, he finds the idol. He had that great moment where he's like, my daughter hid things around the house and I found them every single day.
That was so cute. I love that.
In order to practice finding the idols, he's been an absolute tank in challenges, just carrying Luvu. He did the slingshots tonight. Good for Nasir. Amazing episode for him. But now let's go to Yase, where we had, some interesting dynamics going on, stuff that I didn't necessarily.
Oh, wait, Dylan, sorry. Quick thing before we go to Yase. I'm calling it right now. I know last season was weird because we ended in the middle of COVID with airing, but if this season is mostly back to normal, I guess it's not going to be because we're not going to get a reunion probably, right?
Who knows? Honestly,
I was just going to say, if we get any Sia money, I'm calling it right now. Nasir is going to win the Sia money, hands down. Calling it.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see. But yeah, Yase, some kind of weird stuff going on is that Evie saying she wants to form a tighter bond with Xander while saying she's kind of just keeping him close to make it, to make him not think that he's on the outs, even though he is on the outs. However, when you do something like that, your other alliance members are going to start to get suspicious. And that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, well, so I thought the Yase stuff was actually very interesting. And that's actually why I was confused. I thought that Yase maybe was going to go to tribal council here. And of course, Ua lost again. This was really cool seeing Evie go off with Xander. And then Tiffany's back with Liana, and we saw from the what's it called? From the episode where Voce went home, that Tiffany is a scrambler, and as soon as she sees the opportunity, she's gonna try to make something happen. So as soon as they're gone, she goes to Liana. She's like, I don't trust Xander. I also think that Evie is more close with him than she's letting on with us, so we got to keep an eye on her. I got to say, Tiffany does have pretty good reads. I think a lot of us underestimated her coming into the season. She's in that older woman category. She's not old. I'm not calling her old, but I'm saying she's in that category of players where, the older female sometimes can go home first. And she's actually proven to have really good reads on the season. She, maybe that's her life experience, her being a teacher. She is good at working with different people of different ages. So I think that's why we've seen her maybe come a bit more alive as a player. So I feel like Yase is a really fun tribe to watch because we've seen a lot of Ua, we've seen a little bit of Luvu, and Yase. I feel like Evie, Liana, Xander, and Tiffany are all different types of players, and they're all really interesting to watch. But Dylan, I was just cracking up at Tiffany's eye rolls. Like the whole time Xander's talking to her, Tiffany's like, I cannot believe this kid is just not only showing me everything, he lied to my face, and I caught him right away. It was just so funny to watch.
Yeah, and I think Tiffany has had a fantastic rebound this season. She has done her and Liana perfectly execute going through Xander's bag. And, Tiffany calling out that Evie could be the one calling the shots. Evie's somebody who could be dangerous later in the game. I think she really has a good grasp of what's going on, and has a lot of social awareness despite what we were possibly showed in the second episode. I think that whatever happened in that second episode, the beef has been squashed between Liana and Tiffany. They seem to be really tight. And, Liana did a perfect job going through the notes quick, figuring out exactly what was going on. And then Xander tells Tiffany, I found the idol, stumbles all over his words. And Tiffany's like, I could tell he's lying from a mile away. I know he's lying to me, obviously, because we saw the notes in his bag and we were able to connect the dots that, he was lying. So Tiffany does a great job of that. I think those three girls, they're in a great position in this game. So I am very excited to see what happens with that. Obviously, with the potential merge coming, what happens with Xander? Xander's idol now activated. Just a lot of, interesting stuff going on with Yase. And we do have a lot to talk about Liana, who I literally was texting you during the episode. And I said, as soon as I saw her, as soon as I saw her going through the bag and execute that perfectly, I'm like, I've been saying that, if she recognizes that Evie's calling the shots and she's, kind of putting herself in that position to hide behind her, she's going to be a really good player in this game. And look, I called Liana doing a great job so far. And we have the immunity challenge. Obviously, everyone said the secret phrases. And again, we mentioned the flashback that we got. We mentioned Nasir already. But yes, all three of those idols for Xander, Shan, and Nasir are all active and all are able to vote now.
That was so good. And I should have seen that coming as well, where Shan says her phrase and Xander has to force his. I feel bad. I actually feel so bad. Like, Xander can't just say, oh yeah, I said the butterfly comment. He has to repeat the exact phrase. Like I said, I truly believe that butterflies are dead relatives coming. Like, he has to repeat the exact phrase. He can't just say, oh, I said it before. And then there's a point of silence. And then I'm like, okay, is someone going to say it? And then Jeff goes, all right, let's go. And then Nasir goes, oh, Jeff. And I'm like, oh, no. And then it's like, I'm as confused as a goat at an AstroTurf, and I'm like, oh my god, Nasir found it. And I love the flashbacks. I think we started seeing this like 3 or 4 seasons ago. Maybe it was like David versus Goliath, but we actually we recently have seen them use flashbacks more often, and this was such a good use of it, and I loved how they implemented it.
And I think another amazing thing here is, like, I thought that he was just going to be like, what are these people? I thought he was going to raise his hand and be like, Jeff, I'm confused what's going on. Why are they saying these weird phrases? And then he was like, he said the phrase and I was like, wow, like nobody expected that. So that was unbelievable editing, unbelievable stuff. Now we have the immunity challenge here where, Luvu, again, dominates. Yase does a great job as well, actually coming in first in the challenge. So good job to them. Ua goes right back to Tribal. And, the big part of the episode that I think is a lot of foreshadowing here is this summit thing where we had Liana and Shan go. And I think when I say foreshadowing, I think that they're going to be a very tight bond, maybe like a secret type alliance type thing going forward once the merge hits. And look, Liana and Shan really, really bonded. Obviously, they're the great moment where Shan is talking about her mom. And, they were looking out over the ocean, and it was just an unbelievable moment, just like a character to character moment. And at the same time, I feel like they're really, setting the groundwork for what's going to be possibly a power alliance going forward. And Shan obviously decides to protect her vote because she needs it. And at the same time, Liana does get that advantage. So Liana has an advantage, which again, we're going to go over in a few seconds, but I want to get your thoughts on just the Shan Liana moment and bond. And,
I was going to say, let's go into the summit for a second, because after we go into the advantage, I'm ready just to unleash on the advantage. But no, this was one of my favorite parts of the episode and one of my favorite parts of the season so far. This, like you said, was a really powerful segment, not only because Shan, opened up about her mother and she had a really troubled past, getting into a gang, and then she, became a pastor. That was really powerful, seeing her and Liana cry together. And it was so moving because, like she said, well, first of all, we can see already the results of the diversity casting, that it's very powerful that, these 2 Black women are coming together and working together. That obviously is really great. And like she was saying, Dylan, I've been with Rickard and Jeannie for 11 days and I haven't had this type of connection with them. And I haven't been able to share this. I met Liana for 3 hours and I already am divulging really personal information. So yeah, I think I agree. This is foreshadowing that we will see them whatever the fake merge, fake swap, whatever it's going to be, we're going to see them rekindle something at some point, and I can't wait. I also really like to see once again that, like you just mentioned, Liana turned her wheel towards, I'm going to risk my vote, and Shan said, I'm going to protect my vote. But it wasn't that they did it in confidence. This is exactly what happened with Evie and Deshawn, where Evie said to Deshawn, I'm letting you know I'm going to protect. So if you want to get a advantage, I will let you do that. So we're already seeing, and this is why, Dylan, we're going to complain about the knowledge is power in a second. Some of these other things have been questionable. The summit has been one of the best things, I will go on record, one of the best things of this season. And we need more in the future, more cross-tribal interaction. And we should have been getting it for a lot more seasons. This is basically like what we said before with Tocantins and the Cross-Exile Alliance. So we need more interactions, because now we now have, Dylan, whenever we get to emerge, here's what we have ready for us. Liana and Shan, Evie and Deshawn, Xander and Danny, Tiffany versus Sydney. Those are already four not duos, but four connections that we have to look for in addition to these tribes. So it's setting up a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it is really phenomenal. I love the summit. And I want everyone to remember that one thing that Shan said to Liana. She said, if I'm not here on day 12, don't trust Rickard. I think it's clearly pinning that they're going to go at each other, as if this entire episode wasn't basically a foreshadowing of that. So that's awesome. And now we have Liana, who opens up the advantage. I'm assuming I'm sitting here as the viewer. I am not a casual. Obviously, we're big fans. And I'm sitting here and saying, oh, she gets an extra vote. Nope. She gets the knowledge is power advantage. She's allowed to ask one player just one question. Do you have an idol? Do you have an advantage? That player cannot lie. If they have something, then Liana gets the advantage. If they have nothing, then the advantage loses its power. I, again, just read off of strictly notes that you wrote down, Ryan, basically reading right off the note. And this is, again, I think this advantage, and again, we've spoken a lot about this already, and I want to get these conversations out to the viewers as well. This is one of those advantages that I think is a great advantage in theory, but there are several flaws at the moment based on what we know or don't know. And I just want to get your thoughts on everything, and then I will give my thoughts as well.
It's bad. It's bad. I don't like it. And again, people on Twitter, Dalton Ross, Stephen Fishback, Mike Bloom, they've already said it. So I want to just give them credit before I just repeat what they're saying. But this Survivor is a game about deception, social manipulation. And what you're doing here is, if Liana, and I know you're going to go into social game in a second, but if Liana has a good read on somebody and has a good connection with somebody and asks them a question, they cannot lie. They cannot come up with a countermeasure. They have to tell her the truth. Production will tell them, no, you must tell her the truth. And they will lose that advantage that they got, or that idol, which can really sink their game. And Liana just has to ask the right person the right question. Now, again, luckily, she can't just say, do you have something? She has to specify whether it's an idol or an advantage. She can't just say, do you have an item? Because that would be even more broken. But, you're taking away someone's ability to lie in a game about deception. I think it's not a good twist. And I really hope, for production's sake, this doesn't screw somebody. Because, again, we said this last season, we were lucky that extortion didn't screw Tony. Because Dylan, Twitter would have been in flames if Tony Vlachos got eliminated that week that Sophie went home, because spoilers. It's tough. Sometimes we can't help it. We're super fans. We can't help but reference things. But the point is that if Tony had gotten screwed by the extortion advantage, people would have gone ballistic. They're just lucky that Tony outthought it and he beat it. But I'm hoping, for their sake, that this does not screw a player over, because I think this is just so overpowered, Dylan.
So I like the idea of stealing an advantage from somebody. I don't like the way this is being executed. I think that this is designed to reward social game. Okay. So, for example, if Liana knows from her social game that Xander has these advantages, she knows to go to him and steal that advantage. So that it's rewarding social game. However, I would like to take that a step further, and this is how I interpreted it first, but this is not apparently what it is. I thought that when it said you cannot lie, or I should say, when it said that the player cannot lie, meaning I thought it meant that the player has to tell the truth. So here's what I thought. I thought that if Liana goes to Xander and Xander goes, no, he lies and says, no, I don't have the advantage. I thought that the advantage is just dead. But clearly people are saying that no, basically he's going to know that this is an advantage for Liana and he's going to have to tell the truth and then have to give that advantage to her. So I don't know how this is being executed. I don't know if production's going to be like, well, you have to tell him the truth. I don't know if Liana's going to be forced to give him the note and be like, no, you have to tell me the truth. But I think it would take it. I think if he could lie and say no, then it takes social game an extra step, and it makes him have to tell the truth in order for Liana to get the advantage. That's kind of how I interpreted it first, but clearly people are saying that he just can't lie, and that's what it is. So I'm kind of curious to see how this plays out. I'm curious to see if people in the comments can drop clarifications on how they interpreted it, but this is how I interpreted the rule originally. I'm thinking to myself, Liana has to get Xander to tell the truth. In that case, I think it's a good advantage because you're rewarding social game, but I don't think that's the case here.
This is why we've been on record and other people have agreed saying, if you're going to have a lot of these new advantages or a lot of these little intricacies, you need to have like a URL to a website or go to cbs.com where you can read the notes, because we only saw like, I took a picture of it right down here and it was in one frame. So I can only see the top half of it. I can't see what the bottom says. To your point, Dylan, I would need to know, would Xander just lose it? And he goes, oh, I don't know what happened to it, but it's gone. Production says it's been removed. Someone else has it now. Or does Liana have to physically give him the notes? I really hope she doesn't have to give him the notes, because that's going to really lose a lot of trust in his eyes for her. But yeah, this is why we need to see what the actual advantage is and what the rules are, so that way we can, as fans and as podcasters, we can analyze it and we can kind of see, what's the optimal move and what makes sense. But yeah, I just think that it's really, really strong. And again, it opens up by saying, information is power and it's going to help if you know something. Well, we already saw Liana go through Xander's bag. So Liana's not going to blow her load right away. She's going to maybe wait for a more opportune time. But if she wanted to, Dylan, she could literally have just gotten that note, turned around, went to Xander and said, hey, do you have an idol? Or I'm sorry, do you have an extra vote or something? And he's going to say yes, because she went through his bag and he has it. So it just makes it just really, I just don't like it. So I really hope this doesn't break the game in a really bad way.
So K Benia 2.0 makes a comment here and kind of is trying to specify and says Jeff is going to have to step in and make the person tell the truth. That I hate that. That I do not like at all.
Well, wait, do we know if that's confirmed?
If that is true, I don't like it. Because again, I think it just doesn't reward. So it doesn't reward social game as much as I would like it to reward social game. So if that does happen, then that's annoying. Again, I like the idea of stealing an advantage, but it just may be too much. Again, though, these advantages were made. Okay, so he says in the comments it's not confirmed. So that's what a lot of people seem to think. I'm thinking that when they made this steal advantage, they're saying, oh, well, not everyone's going to tell everyone who has the advantages. But so far on every single tribe, basically, except for Nasir. And again, we don't really know about Nasir yet because they didn't show us. But it's seemingly on every single tribe, everyone knows who has what advantages. So in that case, it's just an easy move for Liana to know who to go up to. And it doesn't really reward any kind of social game or anything. So I'm curious to see how this plays out, bottom line.
I just found from, if anyone can't see me, I'm literally like zooming into the notes to try to see if I can read something to get more information. Because again, to Bonilla's point, I don't know who's going to make them tell the truth, whether she gives them the note, whether production says something in confessionals. I don't know what's going to happen here. I did find out the last time this advantage can be used is when there are 6 players left in the game. So there are 12 people right now. Liana still has 6 more vote outs that she can use this. So she's going to use it before then. That's just a point of clarification. Oh, Dylan, this must be asked at tribal council before the votes are cast.
Wow. So Jeff's gonna have to step in.
Well, if she asks at tribal, Jeff will step in. If it's like at camp, then and I have a feeling Liana may disrupt the ebb and flow of the game, and she may ask somebody at tribal to really get them to like get locked up there. She could ask at camp, then I guess in that case production would say something. But so now this is going to be a whole thing where they're at tribal council at a merge, and Liana is oh my god. So sometimes we see on Survivor Dylan where people don't reveal their idol and they pull it out after the votes are cast. Sometimes we see people like a Tony or a Russell, they'll put it around their neck or something. That would just be the biggest egg on your face if someone's like, you know what, you can't get rid of me tonight, I have something. Liana turns to them and says, hey, like, do you have an idol? And like she just gets it for free just by asking that. So
this
that's going to be very interesting.
In my opinion, this is like the idol nullifier, but it's almost a way more powerful version because Liana's getting that idol. But here's the thing, and this could be a double-edged sword, because now if she steals an idol or an advantage at tribal council, every single person in a merged tribe is going to know that she has that advantage. So she has to make a decision to say, I already know where the advantage is. Is it worth it for me to steal it, or is it worth it for me to just fly under the radar like I already am? Interesting decision. Because I think it could be a double-edged sword,
the only way people wouldn't know about it is if it's kind of like this whole extra vote thing from the summit, where it's like you'll secretly get it at tree mail. So that's the only way that people wouldn't know about it. But I mean, we don't know. Also, I'm laughing because on Twitter, Brian Scally tweeted out that because of this knowledge is power. He's like, I think Shannon's already used this advantage twice because Shannon's just getting advantages from people. But
that is funny.
But no, this is I can't wait to watch other podcasts because I know people are going to rip this advantage a new one. But it's a lot, Dylan. It's a lot.
Yes, and the last thing we have to talk about here on this podcast. So then, obviously, after that, we go to UA and we go to the whole vote out. Jeannie gets voted out once again, but it's voted out 2-1. UA now a tribe of 2. And next time on Survivor, we see drop your buffs. Everyone goes merge, and then Jeff goes, well, kind of. So we are going to clearly see some kind of unconventional merge. I don't know what this means. I don't know if you have any speculation on what you think it means. I don't know if it means that they're just going to go to 2 tribes and maybe he's just like saying, well, not exactly. And just like it just goes to 2 tribes instead. I'm curious to see what you think is going to happen.
My gut is telling me they're going to do something similar to what they did. Well, I don't know if they've exactly done this, but they're going to do something, I think, where they're going to split the cast. They now have 12 people. My guess is they're going to split the 12 people into 6 tribes. Sorry. 2 tribes of 6. Wow. I could not. Could you imagine 6 tribes of 2? That's 2 tribes. Split the 12 people into 2 tribes of 6. And I think that both will have to vote somebody out, getting us to 10, and then we merge. That's my guess. Because the other thing that we saw briefly in the next time on is that on the sand, there was a giant like yellow bubble or a giant yellow cover. And I'm wondering if Jeff uncovers it, there's like spots. It's like you pick a spot and like that's your random tribe. I don't know. That's my guess. Because clearly it's not a straight up merge because we wouldn't have had that teaser. So we're going to get some type of vote out or some type of thing before we get people all together. So that's my guess. 2 tribes, you each vote somebody out, and then you merge.
I'm just going to call it my own theory of what it could be. I think it's completely possible that what happens that I think it's completely possible that what you said happens. Split into 2 tribes of 6. Each tribe votes someone out, merge at 10. That seems like the most logical scenario. My guess is that because he goes, well, not exactly. So my guess is that they draw. Okay, this is a crazy scenario. I don't know if this is realistic, and you could let me know what you think. But he kind of made it seem like it's going to be a half merge. Well, what is a half merge, in my opinion? I think it's possible that they draw rocks. Maybe like 4 out of the 12 people left get put on a tribe of 4, and the rest are merged. Okay?
Oh.
I think what that would mean is everyone competes in individual immunity in an individual immunity challenge. If one of those 4 people wins, then hold on. Those 4 people are going to tribal council no matter what. But if that individual person wins immunity, then they would be safe. If none of them win immunity, then it's just that one of the people who already then that would be weird because then they would automatically not be going to tribal council. But I think it's going to be some kind of thing like that. I didn't iron out this idea completely, but my guess, you know what? Here's what it maybe is. Maybe it's like uneven tribes or something like that of like 8 and 4. I think it's just going to be some kind of weird half merge type thing that goes on. And again, I need to do more math in my head and calculations to see how this would work. But maybe it is 8 people merge and are safe tonight. And then 4 people draw rocks and have to go to tribal that night. They compete for immunity. And then those 4 people like are one tribe for one episode and vote someone out. And then they're merged after. So you know what I mean? I could see like a half merge type thing happening. It's a little complicated, but that's my idea.
Well, the interesting thing is that we've seen in Survivor, we've seen a couple examples of fake merges. Like I mean, this has been a long time since I've seen the season, so I might be butchering this, but in Survivor Thailand, I think that at one point the 2 tribes got together and they were on the same beach for like a night or a whole day or something. And then at one point Jeff shows up and he was like, "Oh, I never physically said the words, you're merged, you're not merged, go back to your camps." And they were like, "Oh my God." And then somebody got voted out. But then, and then also then in Gabon, I know you and I actually watched Gabon in the off season as part of, a lot of seasons that we rewatched. There was a moment, Dylan, where the 2 tribes got together on the sand and they had a merge feast. And then they open up a box and it's like, no, you're going to actually go into 2 new tribes, vote out one person, and then you're merged. Actually, Gabon merged at 9, which is very, very weird. But I think you're right. But no, I'm sorry. This is the thing I want to say, though. But that was because they had an assumption, and then they found out later, oh, it's not really a merge. It was a fake merge. They were told at this in this preview, Jeff's like, you are merged. Not exactly. So he's already teeing it up, which is why I feel like it's going to be something really weird and interesting. I think my theory makes sense. Your theory seems really interesting, too. Kay Bonilla says in the chat he thinks that it might be 3 tribes of 4 people. So, I think that's possible as well. I think that would be interesting. It's like you're already in 3 tribes. We're going to just swap and then go to 3 tribes of 4. Now, the question would be, do you only vote out one person and then you merge? You vote out 2 people? Do you vote out 3? I think there's a lot of interesting ways that they can do this, honestly.
I have another theory. Okay. What if they split? What if they don't necessarily merge, but every tribe is going to tribal council together? And so how do I describe this? They have an individual immunity challenge. 1 or 2 people are safe. Like, let's just say top man and top woman are safe. Like they've done that in the past. Okay. Yeah. But everyone goes to tribal together and has to vote someone out. And they have to use those cross-tribe bonds to kind of figure stuff out. I don't know if they'll have the same, if they'll be able to strategize together, or they'll just go back to their original beaches and they'll all have to show up at tribal council together. But something crazy is going to happen. I don't know what it is. We could speculate for hours here about what it could be.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really excited. I mean, that's the point of the promo. The point of the promo was to get you excited to tune in next week. And they got me, I was tuning in anyway, but they got me very excited about what this can mean. I'm sure, like you said, we're going to leave this podcast and we're going to think about 2 or 3 brand new ideas that they could do. So it's very exciting.
All righty. And yeah, that wraps us up pretty much for tonight. We got it. That was a lot of strategy talk, a lot to talk about, but another great episode tonight.
I was just going to say the last thing that I have to mention, and while I'm mentioning this, if anybody happens to have any comments or any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we will quickly go over it. We know we started later. It's already 11:30 on the East Coast, but we'll be wrapping up soon. The one thing I want to mention, Dylan, is to go back to Shannon and Rickard's conversation that we hinted at earlier in the episode, just because I thought this was just such a interesting conversation between 2 strategic players. And I think it showed us 2 things. One, it showed us that Rickard really is savvy. I know Shan's been getting a lot of credit both on the show and also online. People are really into Shan. But this shows that Rickard is also not to be overlooked, because he clearly outlines to her, it makes no strategic sense for me to give you this back, because then I have no value and you could easily just vote me out, just like you did to JD. So why would I give this to you? The same move, like you said, Dylan, the same move you try to pull on JD last week that worked. It ain't gonna. JD's 20 years old. I don't know how old Rickard is, but Rickard is more seasoned in life. Like, he's not going to fall for the same thing that JD, a 20-year-old kid, fell for. Like, you're not going to pull this on me. It makes no strategic sense for me to give this to you. So he outlined it perfectly. So that's number one. And then number two, this shows me, and we talked about this before, and I think Jordan said this last week as well. Shan is a really good player. We've seen her do really well. She's great socially. She's good strategically. Shan, how do I put this nicely? I feel like Shan has a big need for control. I think that I'm not calling her sloppy. I'm not calling her, maybe she's overplaying a little bit, but like, I think she needs to control every aspect of the vote. And this time she didn't get her way because Rickard didn't give it back to her, but they were able to work it out and Jeannie still went home. I'm wondering at the merge or in the fake merge or whatever it is, we're going to see maybe someone else not go Shan's way, and they're like, I'm not going to budge. And then in this time, Shan's like, okay, well, I'm going to vote you out because you're not doing what I want. And I feel like Shan, even though she's a great player, needs to have a lot of control.
Look, on one hand, she's been forced to play tribal council so many times. On the other hand, I do feel like she's doing a little bit too much, and I do worry for her going forward because of that.
Yeah. You do have one question.
Oh, okay.
What's up?
I said, okay, get the question up, and we get, love to have the fan questions. So we have our last fan question here from K Benia 2.0. Do you guys think the men are afraid that a women's alliance might be coming since Danny said a lot of men have been voted out? I think that's definitely a concern. We saw Danny, we saw Danny afraid of that. And I think that Deshawn's probably afraid of that. And look, if there is an all-woman alliance coming at the merge, then those guys are in trouble because we know Danny's going to be a phenomenal individual challenge player. So I think that of course, there's reason to be nervous about that if you're a male. I do think it's very interesting though that like that thought even came to their mind because they're thinking really far ahead in it. So I give them tons of props for like even thinking like that.
Yeah, well, so far we've lost 6 people this season. We've lost, I think, 4 males and 2 females. So the women do have the numbers right now. I do get the sense, though, that some of the women may not be for it, which is also why we see sometimes that women's alliances they rarely work on Survivor or Big Brother just because people try to include others and then someone's just not up for it and then it falls apart. But, let me pose you a quick question. Do you think if Sydney was approached for a women's alliance, would she do it? Because to me, she seems very tight with Danny and Deshawn. So I feel like she would not go along with it. And I'm not saying that would tank a women's alliance, but I feel like the men might be afraid. I just don't think a women's alliance is going to happen.
I think she would be like, she'd try to play the middle in that case.
If she plays the middle, I still think she sticks with Danny and Deshawn.
Yes. But I think she plays the middle in terms of like, she gets information from them, but she doesn't actually... She's like a double agent, basically. She gets information from the women, but she is not actually with them.
I mean, listen, I could see a scenario where Liana and Shan they seem tight based on the summit. Tiffany seems very tight with Liana, so I could see maybe them trying to work together. Maybe they pull in like an Erica, but we've already seen now that Sydney does not like Erica because Erica said her name. So that's one problem. Tiffany and Sydney did not get along because of what happened with Brad at the nighttime summit thing. So that's another thing. We also saw that tonight in confessional, Tiffany's like, I like Evie, but Evie is probably more devious than I think. And she's closer to Xander than she's letting on. So Tiffany may not trust Evie at some point. So I feel like, to answer Bonia's question, I think the men are certainly afraid of it because they are noticing it, but I don't think it's going to come to fruition.
Yeah, I think you bring up a lot of phenomenal points there.
Mm-hmm.
But to wrap it up, once again, if you're watching this video, be sure to like it. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and be sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Soul Survivor Pod, and on Instagram at Soul Survivor Pod. I want to thank also, we had one user who gave us a beautiful 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. So thank you for that. Whoever that was, obviously the name wasn't a visible name for me to see. Otherwise I would shout them out. But yes, I recommend, it'd be great. Look, we love the 5-star reviews. So if you're feeling happy on the day, want to head over to Apple, give us a 5-star review and rating. That would be absolutely great. And thank you to the one person who did that. We appreciate you more than you know. All right.
We like to be liked. Everybody likes to be liked. So we appreciate it.
Of course. All right. So our normal wrap up, Ryan.
Our normal wrap up. There was a lot tonight. Really fun podcast, Dylan. Really like talking about everything. I cannot wait for whatever is next week. Merge, fake swap, whatever it is. I can't wait to dive into it. But as for now, we had nothing else to discuss, nothing else to share, nothing else for you. So as always, grab your torches and head back to camp.
Good night.